We're live. It's alive. Hey guys, Rorius here. I'm very sleepy. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're having a good day. Or night, or morning, or whatever time it is for you. It is that time again. What is this button? Oh, I forgot about that button. That would be cruel. There's a button that I forgot that I have in the YouTube dashboard, which is a insert ad button. Press it, and it'll put an ad in the video. These streams always get copyright claimed though, so so there's no point. The ad revenue will just go to someone else. I'm not gonna make you watch ads in these streams. Well, you might still have to watch one right at the start of the stream, because that's how YouTube monetization works. Now, is that dun 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 or dun, 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 some sort of like or is it dun 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 one more angel dun 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 um you didn't have time? Ah, damn, it's alright, it's alright. We do one of these once a month, so you have 1 month now. You have approximately wait, if I turn this off. You have approximately probably the second, so you have approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 4 weeks. It is early. I should have needed to count that. Can you wish homework was like this? Yeah. You have 1 extra year. Yeah. It's okay if you haven't done it. You have now an extra year to do it. I mean, we may as well get started. This was uploaded right at the end of well, like probably the day we did the reaction stream. Wouldn't be surprising. Steamed hams, but the roles are reversed. This is probably gonna get copyright claimed. Pretty sure steamed hams that got copyright claimed in the previous stream. 1 second before we start. I'm just really curious to look it up. Oh, did I remove it? I might have removed it. Never mind. I might have removed it. I'm sorry, I didn't read the required materials. Thank you for the $8. Although, I should remind you, if you want to donate, donating through Streamlabs is better for the channel. It doesn't show up on the chat. It'll still show up on the screen.
Thank you for your donation.
Yeah. You can't go to Discord anymore? What's happened to your Discord, Fireboy? But yes, thank you, RNG. I really appreciate it. Oh, good morning, Tiana. Well, good evening, Tiana. Ah, interesting. Is it a problem? Like, are you unable to verify it, or is it like you have to set up verification? Whatever it is, let's just play this.
Superintendent Chalmers, I hope for an unforgettable luncheon.
Well, Seymour, you made it, despite my directions.
Yes.
This is so
Why is
weird.
there smoke coming out of my oven? Good Lord! What is happening in there? Fire in this part of my kitchen. Well, I should... Krusty Burger.
Evening, morning, same thing.
Obviously good.
You know,
Seymour, I thought I should be. Good for you.
Is that smoke?
No, this is steamed. We're having steamed clams.
This is so
Well,
weird.
Seymour, I made hamburgers.
You said we're having steamed clams.
Seymour, you are an odd fellow. We're having steamed hams. I call hamburgers steamed hams.
You call hamburgers steamed hams.
Region. Phrase.
What region?
Utica.
I'm from Albany.
How was my morning?
Thank you for your donation.
Seymour,
Hey,
you are an odd
there it
fellow.
goes.
Obviously, I made it.
Steamed hams.
Sorry, okay, it was a lot of reading.
Oh no! You
appreciate it.
purchase fast food and disguise
It
it as
even-
your own
it even
cooking.
got the
Delightfully
vampire
devilish,
Rory.
Superintendent.
As the picture.
Well, I thought we were
My morning evening was
kitchen.
Yes.
Well, Seymour, I must say, I should be.
Oh,
I
you
mean
gods!
short.
What is that?
Aurora
wasn't much.
Borealis.
There wasn't much.
Aurora
of
Borealis?
it.
You know, one thing I should... Excuse me for 1 second. Just the northern lights.
Yes.
Nicely.
No.
The house is on
So
fire!
awkward.
No. It's Aurora Borealis.
That's all good.
Oh,
Thank you for coming
well,
around.
that was wonderful.
When
Good
he
time was
has
had by
been-
all. I'm pooped.
Well, I appreciate it greatly, and I appreciate your presence. So, good luck. I just registered the end of that. Still waiting on that editing job. Slowly, with your donations, I will be able to afford to pay you. Yeah. Just donate me your entire salary, and then I can pay you. Anyway, as a community full of puzzle makers, this is a good watch. Yes, I saw this as I was waiting, as I was setting things up. This is a Game Maker's Toolkit video that looks like it's about game development, which is this might be interesting to look at. Momentary re-injection. Monetary re-injection. Love the smell of trickle down in the morning. Yeah. Trickle down economics. Oh dear. Well, yeah. Thank you for joining us, RNG. You have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, evening, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Mark, and I am making a video game about magnets. So in the last episode of this series, I said that my next goal was to work on some actual content for this game, the puzzles for this puzzle adventure. All of the stuff I've made so far has just been test levels and prototype stages, stuff that ultimately ends up getting thrown away when I change the code too much. But in the spirit of finish the game, it's time to knuckle down and really get to work on the content that should hopefully end up in the final game. So, my challenge for January 2023 was to make 30 individual puzzle chambers. How did I get on? Well, stick around to find out.
Okay. I will stick around. Yeah. I don't know why, but I always like to say,
So,
just in case, even like East Coast US, I sometimes think of it as being evening. I know it is only 3 p.m., but it's like your evening, I guess. Like even the afternoon. I don't know when afternoon ends and when evening begins. I guess that's my problem. Sponsory. I have 0 sugar Coke. I don't have any breakfast here though. So I have an emergency cookie in case I feel like I need an emergency cookie. Emergency cookie. Yeah, Fireboy. It's you that I'm often thinking of, like, because I know that it's like I'm very aware that you're East Coast. So I'm like, is it for Fireboy? I'm like, is it afternoon or evening? Depends on when you define when evening begins. I would say afternoon for 3 p.m., but when does evening begin? Emergency cookie will be consumed.
On January 2nd, I
Probably.
sat down in front of Unity with a big mug of tea and a great deal of determination and went, all right, puzzles. Puzzles. Puzzles.
I like how Game Maker's Toolkit
turns out it's really hard to just
totally
come
fine
up
with having Unity
ideas
stuff on it.
for puzzles. I've made a few good ones during the development of this game, but they honestly feel like flukes that came about at random. The thought of doing that on demand 30 times in a row, I'm not sure how to do that. And so in the beginning, progress on this challenge was pretty slow. I made a few levels, but it was like pulling teeth. And this really shot my motivation for working on the game. I could only do it for a couple hours a day before getting completely bored and burnt out. And so at this
I think when it comes to me like this, I feel like of all people I should be one of the people who can relate to this. I remember when it came to Portal Unity, I almost every new puzzle I made, it's weird I didn't find it too difficult to come up with puzzles, but I guess it's because I was working with a framework that already kind of existed. You know, Portal already existed as like a baseline of what kind of puzzles, what is available and what kind of puzzles you can make. So I never had too much trouble coming up with new stuff. But when you're making a brand new mechanic, like his game clearly has like a magnet mechanic where he has to bring use magnets to get around a level, flip switches. In my mind, I'm like, you need more. I would want more to that mechanic. Have like, I'd want more pieces. Like your classic addition is like a cube, a box, or something like that. Perhaps that also is magnetized. Oh, hey Zach. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Or one that isn't magnetized, but since like maybe you can grab it and move it with you when you magnetize these things. Then there's there's all sorts of like little things you can add to this kind of game to just add a bit more like functionality that could make more interesting puzzles. But yeah, so that, I mean, when it came to Portal Unity, we already had the most of the mechanics, but we did come up with new ones, and we sprinkled the new ones, initially the like practice ones, in amongst the sort of standard, could be considered standard like Portal puzzle mechanics, and then sprinkled them into the mix later on. So you had to use those mechanics with the standard Portal mechanics. But yeah, even in the later stages of the game, I never really had difficulties coming up with the puzzles. What I had difficulties with is not being too aggressive with the puzzles. I had to tone down a bunch of stuff in the later end of the game because it was like I was making certain things too hard or too frustrating. And one of the things that sort of like became the hardest puzzle in the game, it wasn't like the other issue I was meaning to mention is I had difficulty with balancing. So like once it got to the challenge section, which is like where I was like, no holds barred, you've learned everything you need to learn, now you're just gonna get tested against a bunch of different test scenarios. I had difficulty making sure, and I failed ultimately in making the curve continue to rise throughout the end of the game. My difficulty curve goes like this at that end of the game. Some of them are super easy, some of them are super hard. There's that one that you have to fire 3 portals in one jump that stumped a lot of people. And it was like, I think the map is test chamber 13, but it's the actual test chamber number is like 19 or 17. I forget. I can never remember my own test chamber numbers.
At this rate, I simply wasn't going to meet the goal. Now, I did start to think that maybe I was just done with this game after working on it for so long. It's been well over a year now. Plus, I just took a massive 4-month break at the end of
I think genuinely for Portal. Oh, he actually can throw the magnet. That's cool. I do think it seems to be something that a lot of Portal mod developers struggle with, is a difficulty curve, because you never know, especially when like mods, because they're not typically play tested or have very limited play testing. You don't necessarily know what someone is gonna struggle with, and even if you do playtesting, like we did very limited playtesting on ours. We had a few people play our game from our school, and some people struggled with stuff you wouldn't expect to struggle with, and then some people were totally fine with the hard stuff. So you can never be sure. Yeah, like what people are going to struggle with before you release your game. You never know how dumb people are. Exactly. Yeah. So I think this is the first episode of developing I've shown you. I recommend it. I recommend catching up with the series in your own time. Right. Some interesting insights. Yeah. I mean, I'll subscribe. It'll remind me that I've seen this one. That I've that the thumbs up will remind me that I've seen it, but the subscribe will remind me to actually go and have a look at it. Yeah. Yeah. So I knew that puzzle with that one puzzle with the 3-shot leap was going to be hard, but then I wasn't sure how people would face the later stuff, because we didn't really get a chance to test it. We mostly were working from home after that, so I didn't spend a lot of time worrying about testing the later end stuff, which is why a lot of the later end stuff is actually easier. I would have made it harder if I had realized, but yeah. Anyway, let's keep watching.
Last year. But no. You see, sometimes when I was bashing my head against one of these puzzles, I realised that I needed to make some kind of new mechanic, a new button or switch or door or block or whatever. And so I would do the artwork and then write the code and then test and debug and make tools in Unity, and suddenly it was like game development used to be. I could just hyper-focus on the problem for hours and hours at a time without even realising that I haven't had lunch today. But then I'd go back to level design and it was slow and difficult and tedious. But I realised that there was a fundamental difference between these two modes of working. You see, when I was working on a game mechanic, it would always begin with some kind of goal, like I need to make a block that the robot can push left and right, and then I can work towards that goal. But when I'm making a level, the only goal I have is make an interesting puzzle, which is pretty ambiguous.
Nebulous,
what I could
yeah.
really do with is a bit more structure. So I looked for resources to help me come up with ideas for puzzles, and came across this great post by Patrick Traynor, creator of last year's wonderful game Patrick's Parabox, a sort of mind-bending, meta-level, recursive soccer band gem. It was one of the honourable mentions in my video on the most innovative game of 2022. It's a great game. Anyway, this post has loads of great advice on coming up with ideas for puzzles, but there was one thing that really stuck out to me. So here's what I did. I took screenshots of all of the mechanics in my game. That's the magnets, the drill bit, the one-way platform, the electromagnet, the laser, and so on. And then I put them along the top of a table. I took those same mechanics again and put them along the side of the table and got rid of all the duplicates. This left me with a matrix where every cell is at the intersection of two game mechanics. This one, for example, is at the intersection of the electromagnet and the drill. I would then take those two game mechanics and put them into an empty room in Unity, alongside some other bits and bobs like the character, maybe one of the magnets, some buttons, some floor tiles, whatever. And then I'd just start playing around, experimenting, just kind of messing with the system and looking for interesting interactions or interesting consequences of these two mechanics. Like, for example, if the drill bit is over the electromagnetic beam, then my little magnet gets stuck. And then if you retract the drill bit, if you are near the tip, the magnet will quickly shoot up and escape. But if it's on the other side of the drill bit, it will take much longer. And so this little realization, this little trick, that can be the solution to the puzzle.
It's a timer
that is what
thing.
the player has to figure out. And then I can essentially work backwards to create a level where the only way to solve it is to do that one thing. And so if I just add a few more mechanics like so, here we get a level where you have to trap the magnet underneath the drill bit away from the tip, so you have enough time to get here before the magnet escapes and makes these two doors switch places. That's not a bad little puzzle. What else is on the puzzle matrix? Electromagnet plus laser beam? Okay, not bad. Block plus drill bit? Quite like that. Laser plus wheelie block? Yeah, pretty good. Suddenly, puzzle design wasn't so difficult anymore, and my motivation was coming back. I put this largely down to the puzzle matrix. It's all about giving me that prompt, giving me a suggestion, giving me a jumping off.
I definitely think writing down all the mechanics that you have in a big list and then seeing what kind of ways you can mix them. I do think that's a good idea. I probably should have done something like that back in the day, but I didn't. But I will say, even just using that as a way to say, to almost gauge a kind of difficulty of complication entirely based off of how many moving parts there are would be useful. So just having the first few levels just have one or two of those things active at a time, and if you're working on puzzles later on in the game, check how many of those things you've got active, and if you can activate more of them. If you want to increase difficulty, activate more of them. Decrease difficulty, perhaps cut a few of those mechanics. If there's a mechanic being used for just one part of a puzzle, and you want to make it a little bit easier, just remove just that. If there's a single instance of a mechanic that's being used, whereas there's lots of instances of another, perhaps consider removing the one instance of one puzzle type just to reduce complexity of the puzzle. Here's the main limitation to it is it can only give you crossovers between two elements. Yes, yeah. More like game puzzles would have interactions between 3+ elements at once. Yeah, exactly. That's why in my mind I would use the matrix differently. I think I would use it just as what to include in a puzzle, and then just put those pieces to and do it kind of what he did before, where you just instead of thinking of it as you put two puzzle pieces together, just choose a subset of all the puzzle pieces and put them in a space and then see how they interact. Use it as a way to for a final puzzle, for instance, for the very last puzzle of the game, you want all the mechanics. you might want all of the mechanics all at once, and you want to see how you can make a puzzle that requires all the mechanics to be active all at once, to be doing stuff with the mechanics all at once. I love this about game dev, studying level design and game feel. Yeah. I mean, this is what makes me this is what makes me get up in the morning. This kind of stuff. I love this. Yeah.
Point. Just some kind of structure to help me find ideas.
Stuff is
Now, of
getting
course, it
abstract.
didn't always work. Not every combination leads to good puzzles, and sometimes progress was still difficult and slow. But overall, this made puzzle design so
You posted that
much
private.
easier.
Oh.
And it got easier with every puzzle I made. I put that down to a few things. One is that I just got better at puzzle design. I learned the
Oh, damn, that
tips and
sucks,
techniques
Fireboy,
that you
yeah.
get when you do something over and over again. It's like, building a muscle. So, for example, I started to see the importance of the number of actions the player has available to them at any one time. If it's too many, the puzzle can feel confusing and overwhelming. But if it's too few, then the player can just do the thing that's in front of them over and over again until they solve the puzzle without actually solving it. I also thought back to my video on puzzle design where I talked about luring the player into making a wrong assumption about the puzzle so they get a bit stuck and then have to think in a lateral way to find the real solution. So I try to incorporate that in some of
Yeah.
my puzzles as well. Puzzle design
Why it's so important to teach the puzzle mechanic. Like when a player first comes up to a puzzle mechanic, it's so important to teach them all the pieces of that puzzle mechanic in a way that makes sense. In a way they can't brute force, in a way that there is no other solution. But to learn the minutiae of that puzzle mechanic. Because otherwise you end up with situations exactly as he described, where like someone flukes their way past something or solves a puzzle in an unintended way early on, and then they forever on after that point, that mechanic is sort of broken in their mind, because they don't actually fully understand it. That is something I have had that when playing games where I've solved a puzzle in a way that's not, like I'm the king of solving puzzles in the unintended with an unintended solution. And so there's been several times where I come to the puzzle later on, and in my mind I'm like, the rules for this puzzle work differently than they did before. If I finally figure out the solution, I'm like, that's different to the first time I came across it. And it's because the first time I came across it, I solved it unintentionally in an unintended way. Anyway.
also got easier because I boosted the number of mechanics I had available
you can
to
say
me.
the
As I said
general name.
before, so much of puzzle design is about forcing the player to do one very specific thing. So you need to cut off other routes that would allow them to finish the puzzle
Yeah.
in a much easier way and render the whole thing pointless. That usually comes down to some kind of mechanic, like a laser beam that can block the player but not the magnet, or a beam that can block the magnet but not the player, a button that you have to hold down for it to operate, or a door that operates a switch every time you go through it. Every time I made one of these to solve some kind of problem in my puzzle design, I would then have
I hate those. I hate the castle mechanic that's like it triggers when you walk through it. It's been used in Portal before. It's in Portal Pro, and it's in some other games, other 2D games like this one. And whenever it exists, I've always hated it.
have it in my toolbox to solve that same problem much faster in the
It's like
future.
fucking
I also
energy
swapped some of
pellets.
my mechanics for ones that would be more open to combinations in the puzzle matrix. For example, this flippy lever is pretty cool, but I swapped it for a
Ooh.
big spinning fan blade, which can do things like this. Ooh. That could be
Oh,
a
that's
puzzle.
cool.
And the final thing that helped make puzzle design easier was investing even more time into my tools. Like before, if I wanted to wire a button up to a mechanic, it would take many clicks to assign the right function to both the on and off triggers for the button. So I rewrote the whole thing, and now that whole thing can be done with a single click. So much of this process is about playing around and experimenting and iterating, so I want it to be as friction-free as possible for me to edit these levels. So between the puzzle matrix and the tips and techniques and the added game mechanics and the improved level design tools, I was able to make a whole bunch of levels for this game. And each time I would create a slide in my puzzle Bible in Apple's Keynote. On each slide, I would jot down which
I mean, this is what I was talking about when I was saying, like, write down a list of well, in my case, it's like you write a list of all the mechanics and you just check which ones are active in a particular puzzle, or which ones you want to be active in a particular puzzle. This is basically it.
Mechanics are used in that puzzle, so then I could easily reorder the stages to have a nice progression of...
Yeah, because it, like, the amount of puzzle pieces are in a puzzle, or like when it is introduced, when you introduce a new mechanic, and then what that this is exactly what I was talking about. And yeah, it's great for progression. Like I use that to some degree, not like I didn't write it down, but in my head, like I used what mechanics are active as a way of doing progression, so I kind of made the game from start to finish in order. I didn't have to reorder levels when I was making Portal Unity, because I kind of used, yeah, what mechanics are active, and then like let's say you're introducing mechanics, and these mechanics all go together up to this point, and then you introduce something very new and confusing here. So you basically do a reset of sorts, where you introduce something new here, and then in this one, you have that new thing, plus some other element that synergizes really well with it. And then this one, you're like dealing with multiple previous mechanics plus the new mechanic as a way to sort of like show it in a combined kind of form in its natural habitat. And then introduce new mechanic, and then reset, do that again with pieces, and now you can include that previous mechanic in the subset if you wish, and then introduce new mechanic and do it, and just rinse and repeat over and over until you've introduced all the new mechanics. And then from here you start doing the like stuff where it's just rising puzzle difficulty, and that's where you just start going up and up and up with this, where you just increase and increase and increase as you go. Yeah, anyway.
Slowly introducing the player to the different
Make longer
game mechanics.
puzzles.
Eventually, I'll also want to do this for difficulty as well, but that will
More
come
stuff
after
in them.
playtesting. And then when I looked at the puzzle Bible, I could see places where the progression just kind of jumped. So like the first puzzle I have introduces the player to the red block, the electromagnet, and these touch buttons. Then the second puzzle adds blue blocks, and then the third puzzle adds the drill bit and the winch, but then the fourth puzzle adds orange buttons, green buttons, laser beams, and moving platforms. Whoa, that's way too much stuff. Slow
Sudden
down.
jump,
But I
yeah.
could see this gap as fertile ground for making more puzzles, and again with a really clear goal this time of introducing the player to the mechanics that they would need for that fourth level. And so each gap in the puzzle Bible would add even more levels to the total. And so did I meet my goal to make 30 levels in January? Not quite. I got about 26 before I had to stop and make this video. I am still running a YouTube channel after all. But I am really proud of my progress, and I'm really excited for the game now, especially after I overhauled some more of the visuals. I think it's starting to look like a proper, bona fide video game. And so in the space of a few weeks,
really
I went
cool.
from hating my game and wanting to delete it and go live in a cave in Serbia to being really excited about this game coming out. And for the first time in this entire process, I feel like I can see the end. So far, it's been like climbing a mountain where the peak is obscured by fog. But in January, I felt like I could finally see the summit.
I like his character
I can see
design.
the roadmap I need to follow to get
I like the
this game
little
done.
one wheel
I
in the
need to
middle.
Make a bunch more levels. I need to do some kind of narrative,
cool.
story, cutscenes, something. I got to make a level select screen.
No.
I've got to do music.
If it's
and
not
I've got to
here,
do,
then I
the
can't see
general
it.
polish and bug fixing and release. That's a huge amount of work still, many, many months, but it does at least feel like a roadmap. It does feel like something I can follow to get this game done. But the next step is playtesting these levels, making sure they're actually any good. Puzzles, more than anything else in game development, I feel, are
That's a
something
cool
where the
mechanic.
creator just cannot gauge their quality or difficulty. So I need to bundle them together into a demo and give them out to people to play. That will start with family and friends, but then it will go on the GMTK Discord for patrons. Make sure you're in the developer.
Oh, okay, yeah. Channel name is World is Dangerous. The world is pretty much different types of national disaster. Right. I mean, I'll have a look at them. I'll save a tab for that and check them out later. Yeah, I can imagine a channel like this might have. Oh yeah, they have one video remaining at the moment. Yikes. I think what's probably happening is a lot of things like a lot of news channels and channels that have like potential like people getting hurt and stuff like that. They're showing like real flooding and stuff like that, especially live stuff. They might might be dangerous. It might be dangerous. It might trigger YouTube's filters and things and stop their channel from being able to make it work, so to speak. Anyway,
with Mark Thread if you want to have a play. That's all for now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience. And I'll see you, hopefully, in March.
Yeah, I'll definitely check out more of that stuff because I mean, I'm in the midst of it's early development, but I'm in the midst of development on a game with a small team, and we're about to start doing something very similar, puzzle kind of iteration type of thing. So actually, this kind of thing could be an interesting. If there's more specifically to do with puzzle design, it'd be interesting to look at it. But even just game design generally, it'd be good to just like give myself a good refresher as to some of the better practices. But anyway, Gordon Sad.
Ah, Jesus. Look, I've told you 1,000 times before, Freeman. You can't go in here. If you make me repeat it one more fucking time, I'm going to engrave it on a bullet so it finally gets through your thick skull. Now fuck off.
Oh.
How was Atlas doing
What
after
the? It immediately jumped to a. What the? Okay. Into my favorite, my liked videos. Weird. Crap, what was I gonna say? There's something I was gonna say about that. Damn it, I've forgotten. That's something I was gonna say. Cat kisses. Yeah. It just immediately jumped to like the shorts that I was liking in the middle of the night when I had to get up to go to the bathroom. Oh, no, something I was going to say is, unfortunately, I can't stream the full amount of time today because, I've got something I've got to go to, I've got to get to. So we're going to end like 15, 30 minutes early. It's not super early, not super earlier than usual, but, yeah. I think Developing Series doesn't have much on that yet, but this channel has lots of other videos on the topic. Right, yeah. The interviews with devs from from the It Takes Two team, for example. Oh, cool. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely check out their channel more. I need more of that kind of stuff to keep me focused, keep me in gear. Gym 2.
My username is gayben at valvesoftware.com, and my password is MooleyFTW. And steal my account if you can. We'll start off by doing an update to a 3-year-old game and plant clues throughout this so that they can figure out that something's going on and decode satellite data and so on. And so I wanted to touch really briefly on that and answer some of these questions that are in the minds of our fans about what we're going to do. So I'm going to go and talk about that next. Okay. This isn't working.
Oh, right. Just one list equals LL in the URL, and it uses liked videos. Play this? That is weird. That is weird.
That's what I get for working at Microsoft.
I'm really to be a My Little Party thing.
I was pretty close to
I
the
have
end
no
of that
idea what
presentation
Bully
anyhow.
is. Is it a thing? Is it like a reference to something? But yeah. Just GDFO. What have we got here? What is this? Half-Life 2 beta IHV test. iFlexes don't work right. What is this? I wonder how many games Gabe has. Yeah. Yeah, I think he probably has all the games, right? Superhero Bonnie. The hero we needed. Just so you're coming. Okay. That's so weird. I can't quite read what it says. It has something on the side of his outfit there. Anyway. Actually, I saw this because I believe I'm subscribed to your channel. You see, it already has a like on it. He's shaking in his boot. I asked a Valve person about it on Twitter. Ah. They can claim any Steam game for free. Right. Oh, okay. They all get revoked when they leave. Nice. Yeah. He said in his community that he's getting a strike. I don't know why, but he posted the same message 5 times. The images are different, but he keeps posting. Oh, weird. Yeah. Shaking in his boots. Obscure Half-Life 2 maps.
There are several maps in Half-Life 2 that you've probably never heard of. Intro is an unused version of the G-Man intro sequence. I will skip around to the interesting bits.
Effort in the world would have gone to waste until the right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world.
Oh yeah, it's Spin Splash.
So wake up, Mr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes.
What are you watching? Watching. Oh. Why is G-Man still on screen? We're
Credits
watching.
is a map that just plays the credits.
Obscure
This is
Half-Life
the
2
map that you
maps.
get put on when you select the credits chapter.
G-Man's stuck.
SDK shader examples. The only thing that's apparently here is a weird cube. As
This is
the
the
name may
shader that plays
suggest,
it
this
when you're
map
in the
is supposed
void.
to be for the SDK mod. If you load this map in the 2013 SDK, you do get to see a bit more content. D3 C1702 camera is just C1702, except you aren't given any weapons at the beginning, and Dog's cutscenes happen automatically. I could only guess that they used this map to shoot footage for one of the trailers, although I don't recall seeing this specific scene anywhere in them. EP1 Citadel Zero Demo. This is just Citadel 0, except the end of the level is supposed to take you to a map called EP1C1702A demo. That map does not exist in the game's files. These two maps existing, or at least being implied to exist, show us that Valve planned to have a demo for Episode 1, like the one that they had for Half-Life 2. EP1 Intro. Presumably the same idea here as the original intro map, except containing Episode 1's intro sequence. The only proof of this map existing is that it has a node graph file. Node graph files help NPCs better understand the level.
Now, where did I put that calculator?
In the hazard suit.
I like that. That was some obscure maps. There are tons of stuff like that though. If you want to poke around the Valve games, you want to poke around, especially. I mean, you go to mods. Mods have them in abundance because of all the testing and shit that mod developers do, and people like me forget to remove the maps when we build them, build the project. Made my new design, but thanks for making J622. Wait, what? I'm confused as to what I'm reading. Anyway, Ghost Norco, Passive Soldiers, Half-Life 2 facts. Eh?
Once you hit a certain point in this map, the NPCs in the starting area will disappear. If you go out to this place without getting the car, Noriko will still say all of her lines from beyond the void.
Dr. Freeman, you won't get anywhere on foot. Come back up and get in the car.
The crane will still function as normal.
No one in it.
Get that car up, right? Get the hell out of here.
The song Entanglement is quite unusual. It's the only song that loops forever, being only 8 seconds long. Plus, in the one map where it's used, it has an actual source in 3D space. The music becomes louder the closer you are to the Citadel.
If you don't like laughing, if you don't like me laughing at things, you're not gonna like the channel. I laugh at everything.
In the beginning of Entanglement, Eli can be found hiding on the ceiling.
What the fuck? Is he just like in eye shot?
The Citadel's weapon
Of a
destroying
level?
device, which is really specific, will never actually destroy your bug bait. The bug bait will just mysteriously disappear with no explanation. Also, if you've ever picked up a grenade at any point during your playthrough, there will always be a single grenade that appears, even if you don't have any at the moment.
Right, yeah.
This wreckage stuff was not made very well.
Has invented anti-gravity, yeah.
You can send any citizens in your squad up to the top level of this building, where the snipers should attack them, but they won't until you go up there yourself.
Whoa, what the fuck?
On this map, once the second helicopter appears, you can lure it back further into
See
the
ya.
map. This helicopter can be fully destroyed by using the mounted guns.
Yeah. I believe I often do that. Oh, okay, I see what he means. Normally it flies away before you destroy it.
If you throw a
could swear
grenade,
that-
quickly
that-
enter a vehicle, and then go to a new level, you might somehow manage to throw a grenade while still in the vehicle.
What the?
Typically when Valve wants to optimize something, they'll put black walls over the doorways and windows of a building in order to hide the things that are inside it. However, in this one place in Nova Prospect, they did something rather unusual. They actually put in an entirely new wall. If you activate the trap at the White Forest Inn while Alex isn't inside the barriers, this happens.
It's a trap! Gordon, come on, get inside!
So she's just there for the whole. Right? Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna
When
say.
you reach this room and follow Freeman,
wouldn't let the
Barney will
whole
disable
battle
this
go
force
around.
field even if there are
Go
no
through
prisoners to be freed.
Without Alex.
There won't be any prisoners here if you reach the area with a full squad.
That's weird.
If you mess around with this door, Alex can do some funny things.
This day in particular.
If you avoid stepping into this area, the Vortigaunt will never finish working on the airboat.
Oh! Nice. Nice.
There we are.
If you stand near this wall, these soldiers will be very
I love
reluctant
that
to shoot
delayed.
you.
So,
There we are.
Dr. Freeman. At last. I wish I could say this was a pleasant surprise, but it's neither a surprise nor, as you will surely agree, very pleasant. Well, I am nothing if not pragmatic.
I've looked in the decompiled VMF and I cannot find anything to explain this.
But these guys are just like, we got you surrounded. So weird.
More floating things have been found.
Has the VA for Breen passed away? Breen. VA. Where is it? Voiced by Robert Culp. Oh, yeah, he died. He died a while ago. Yeah. Yeah. Fuck, man. Yeah, I've seen his face before, so I must have seen that he had passed away before. I just had forgotten. And yeah, the more that the voice actors for like characters in Half-Life 2, the more that the more of them that pass away, the more I'm like, it's like the more it makes me feel melancholy and like we're never gonna get any real like conclusion to Half-Life. Yeah.
When Father Grigori is holding this lever,
waiting for the
you are
cue
still
to
able
fire,
to
yeah.
interact with it.
While I hold the gate. Go quickly.
Oh.
Most people would consider this a soft lock.
Flee, brother. Onward to the mines.
Citizens can give you health kits through floors.
Here goes. Here, this med kit.
There
I
is
think
at least one missing texture in
it
Half-Life
works
2.
better if you're crouching. Yeah.
Using your own explosives, you can prematurely destroy these Combine rockets.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. And he's just gonna stand in the middle of the bridge waiting to be blown up forever. Nice. Yeah. See, they'll still make Half-Life related products in the future, I'm
Hey,
sure, but there'll be no conclusion.
I usually don't put messages like this in my videos, but with YouTube being more and more stupid every day, I naturally have to worry about my own channel somewhat.
Yeah, same here. Donate via Streamlabs or become a Patreon today. Yeah, it's like starting to get to the age that those involved in the games from our childhoods are passing away. Yeah. I remember when I first heard that the voice actor for Eli passed away, I was like, well, fuck. Did you see the interview with Laidlaw where he said he regretted Epistle 3? Oh, no, I didn't see that. Interesting. Oh, you gotta either post it or send it to me on Twitter or something. DM it to me on Twitter. I'll read it. I'll check it out after the stream, because I am very curious to hear that. I'm curious to hear what about it he. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I'll have a read of that, because I'm so curious to hear that. Like, what aspects of it he's regretful for. Regretful for writing and releasing it, or regretful for the way he wrote it, what he added in there, or regretful that he started a wave of people who are like making Half-Life 3 stuff. I somehow doubt that last one, but yeah. Yeah, like Zach mentioned, the fan project. I don't think he would have regretted it for the fan project. I think he probably regrets it in that it was like, because I think he was salty when he left Valve about everything that had happened. So he wrote it kind of out of spite, and probably regrets that it was a spiteful text. It was a spite. It was, written out of spite, probably. Right. For the hardship it caused his former colleagues, yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I'll check it out after the stream. How could they allow this in a kids show? Sonic X, but it's out of context?
What kind of bitch was that?
What kind of bitch was that? I know that's not what he said, but it's brilliant. Beep beep. A cat is a cat. Wait, is this what it was? Is this what the thing was? If so, I've already seen it before. If so, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, kitty. All cats are cats. Even the biggest cats act just like domestic house cats. Quirks of PlayStation backwards compatibility. Yes, backwards compatibility is confusing in the PlayStation.
How great is backwards
systems.
compatibility? Just the action of plugging something old into something new or vice versa and seeing gears turn is so satisfying, especially when it comes to game consoles and everything that you put in them. Not only does it mean my entertainment center will be less crowded, but it increases my chances of buying a new console earlier, as I know I'll be able to utilize a previous library on it. As time has marched forward, there have been more and more exceptions
still don't have a
regarding
PS5.
game, controller, and accessory compatibility. It's something that's never heavily advertised. This is mainly for marketing purposes. Sony's not going to put it on the PlayStation 5 box that you can play PlayStation 4 games on this. They sold you a PlayStation 5 so you can buy new media for that console, so you can play PlayStation 5 games and spend $60-$70 on new games.
Yeah.
Regardless, it is very nice when it is done, when accessories and discs do carry over. It adds to the convenience and it incentivizes the consumer to buy the next generation of console if they're coming from the previous one. Unfortunately, it's not always straightforward what is going to work with what. Sometimes there's a brand new media format or controller interface, or just
What's that
classic
doing
corporate greed. This has gotten so complex that to organize...
Yeah. The PS1 is probably the most widespread. Yeah. Because the PS1 worked on PS3 like all PS3 consoles, which is something I did not know. I remember the 60 gigabyte PS3 advertised that it had full backwards compatibility. So yeah, you could play your PS3 games, your PS2 games, and your PS1 games. Then what I had heard was that the models after the 60 gig, clearly it's not all of them, only some of them, they lost their backwards compatibility when they went to the, if you bought either the 20, 40, or 80 gig later models, they lost their backwards compatibility. And then the Slim had none. Is what I understood, but it turns out what I didn't know for years and years and years is that all of them have PS1 backwards compatibility. It's just the PS2 backwards compatibility that was different with the different series. But then, yeah, as of the end of PS3, they stopped. Like, the backwards compatibility is, like, cut. PS4 had none at all. But PS5 has PS4 backwards compatibility, which is nice. But PS4 and PS5 are written so differently, like, structurally. Apparently, the PS3 had a confusing API, a really confusing, difficult to write for API, whereas the PS4 is much more modern and standard. So, yeah. PS5 can run PS4, and it's probably going to... Backwards compatibility is probably going to continue to exist for some time.
My thoughts, I created a Google Sheets linked in the description.
Stop being poor then? Well, you know how to do that. Donate. You can afford a PS5, you can afford to donate to Rorius. Yes, I bought a launch PS3. I bought a 60 gig PS3 back in the day. It was $1,200 New Zealand. Yeah.
Working on for the big three console manufacturers.
How
Sony,
could you?
Nintendo,
How could you, Fireboy? Oh.
and Microsoft. The document is still...
Yeah, actually, the Xbox has much better. But as you'll notice, there's all these stars saying limited backwards compatibility.
Still a work in progress during the recording of this video, and I'm sure it's not 100% accurate yet. But just to save you the time, if you came to this video and you have a question regarding compatibility, there's a good chance that the document has your answer. If you see anything in the document that's a little bit on the fence or just wrong, please let me know in the comments and I'll correct it. At first I wanted to do a video on the backwards compatibility across every console ever, but in the middle of putting together the document, I decided to narrow my scope to just the big three, and I wanted to dedicate a video to each of them. One quick caveat, I have limited the list to only include official Sony hardware, so all those third-party, convert a PS2 controller to play on a PS3, not going to include those, so just wanted to get that out there. Starting with Sony and the PlayStation.
I remember the first time I fought one of those demons. Very scary.
Throwing in some bias as it is my favorite lineup of consoles and has one of the best first-party libraries in my opinion. It's also the only lineup of consoles that I own every single one, excluding the PlayStation Vita and VR headset. All of
I have those too.
I want to start at the first PlayStation and move.
I have every single PlayStation except for the PS5. I have every single iteration. I don't have every single version in the sense that I don't have like every iteration of PS3. I don't have one of the little PS1s, but I have a PS1, PS2, 60 gig PS. Well, I had the 60 gig PS3 that died, and I had to replace it with a slim PS3. Sad times. And a regular PS4. And
belong to
that's
modern
it.
day. I'm not going to touch on
Oh,
every single.
I have PlayStation VR, PlayStation Move. What else is there? I have a PS Vita. I have a PSP. Anyway,
little thing. We'll touch on the well-known stuff, but I want to mainly talk about the more surprising things that you can do between all these consoles.
I don't use any of them.
Making this chart, I was very surprised by a lot of the
PC.
discoveries that I made while doing a lot of Google searching and real-life testing. Starting off, let's go to Sony's premier device,
yeah, I
the
don't have the little
PlayStation.
PS1.
Now, there were a lot of different variants of the original PlayStation released from 1995 all the way up to 2000. The main difference on most being region locks and the ports on the back. Both the original PS1 controller and the DualShock 1 are usable on every variant. In terms of media compatibility, the only weird...
You can get the headset and motion controllers to work with Steam VR. Shit. I wouldn't have thought you'd get the VR headset part to work. Because, God, if I had known that, I would have just stuck with PSVR, because I really like the PSVR, actually. Although Vive has the room stuff. Why is my camera so white? I didn't change anything. It's like it got brighter. I suppose it probably did get brighter as the day moved on. That's better. That's what it looked like before. What changed? Anyway.
Exception is this one variant in the Southeast Asian market. This model is the only one capable of playing video CD movies, and it included an additional security chip to curb piracy rampant in some Southeast Asian countries.
Yes.
There was also this black-colored variant released in 1997 dubbed the Net Yorozi, intended for indie developers and hobbyists. What made this one special is there was no region lockout on it. So if you're traveling the world and want to play PS1 games, it's going to cost you about $2,000 on eBay for one of those. Also, quick shout out to the PS1. That's PSONE.
Yeah,
this was
PS1.
the smaller, cute
As opposed to the
PlayStation that
PlayStation.
didn't have a reset button, but it's said to have the best reliability compared to the earlier models.
Yeah, and I knew friends who had a PS1. The little one, but I never had one.
Let's go back to the good old days with the release of the PlayStation 2. The year was 2000, and this is the first time Sony had two consoles on the market, and not every single little thing was compatible between the two. But I'm going to say it right now, this is the gold standard of compatibility. The PS2 actually had all of the hardware of a PS1 in it, except for the GPU. Almost every single PS1 game is compatible on all PS2 models. The original no analog stick PS1 controllers can be used on PS1 games.
I have not come across, in my entire time using the PS2, back in the day, I didn't come across a single game on the PS1 that didn't work on PS2. I don't know of any games that don't work on PS2. I'd be interested to hear if he
on a PS2.
mentions.
They cannot be used on PS2 games, although the original DualShock controller can be used to play PS2 games. In fact, the DualShock 1 and 2 are very similar. Functionally, one of the main differences is the pressure-sensitive buttons on the DualShock 2 used in games like the Bouncer. Essentially, you would see different results based on how hard you hit the buttons. Conceptually, kind of cool, but I had no idea this was even a thing until a couple years ago. The PS1 and PS2 multitaps, which are devices that allow for a third and fourth player, are a little more strict. The PS2 multitap will not physically fit into a PS1, nor will it work with PS1 games at all. The only stretch you can take outside of hardware generations with using these is using a boomerang PS1 multitap with a PS2 to play a 4-player PS1 game. So if you want to play Crash Team Racing 4-player, it does not matter if you got a PS1 or PS2. What matters if you have that PS1 boomerang multitap. Also note, there are two different PS2 multitaps. There's the original fat one that was for the fat PS2 console, then they made a slim one for the slimline PS2. The fat multitap does not work with the slim one due to form factor, and the slim one works for both. In my research, I found that some people have managed to modify their fat multitaps to work with the slims, which I'm not going to get really too deep into, but I thought it was interesting to point out. As far as memory cards go, there are PS1 and PS2 variants of memory cards. Officially licensed PS1 cards have these curved edges, while the official PS2 ones are a little less curvy. They only work for their respective games, regardless of console, if that console runs the game. One last thing to note is that the PS2 does carry the PS1's ability to play audio CDs over, as well as notoriously adding the ability to play DVDs.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of, although all of the windows around here are, well, relatively
Moving on
closed.
to the PS Triple. Ooh, I want
The
to...
only thing that's different is that there's a door in the far end of the room that it's around a corner in this room, but the light is reflecting off the ground. Light coming through the door is reflecting off the ground and probably bouncing around, making it brighter in here.
One of these bad boys so bad, but due to the
$599 US
and I asked my parents for a 360 instead, and would buy a slim model off a coworker years later. This is where things get a little grimier. So starting with the big question, does the PS3 play PS2 games? Answer being
yes
only
and no.
A few models, and of those models, only a smaller fraction of that are going to play them like you remember.
That's
So
the thing. Once again, when it came to the PS3, things got muddier in terms of backwards compatibility. Most, if not all, PS1 games, once again, worked seemingly fine on a PS3. I didn't notice any PS1 games that didn't run properly on PS3. However, PS2 games were really hit and miss whether they would run okay on PS3. I remember trying to play Jak and Daxter on PS3. Would not work. It was broken.
20 and 60 gig PS3 launch models had PS2 hardware in them. They can still to this day play PS2 games great. Next, there was an 80 gig version released, and it could emulate PS2 games with the PS3 cell processor. Later, Sony actually cut this feature with a firmware update, so you can no longer...
In New Zealand, the only ones, the 20 gig didn't have backwards compatibility. Only the 60 gig one had backwards compatibility. And there was one other variant that had backwards compatibility later on. It might have been the 80 gig cell one. I remember finding out that it was, for whatever reason, the 20 gig in the New Zealand region, and I don't know if it was PAL or if it was specifically the Australia-New Zealand region, for some reason didn't have backwards compatibility. So people who opted to buy that one just had no backwards compatibility. Except clearly they still had PS1.
Longer do that on that 80 gig model if you updated. I'm sure a lot of people know this, but a good rule of thumb is software is almost always going to work better when it's running on the hardware it was designed for. In short, the games didn't run as well when being emulated on the PS3's hardware. And it was expensive to include all that PS2 hardware in the launch models. So from a business perspective, it kind of makes sense to clear out all the PS2 hardware and to cut the feature that wasn't even working that well in the first place. This acted as the first small domino to fall that would eventually lead to the plethora of ways to re-experience and rebuy these old PS2 games, whether that be in the form of remasters, remakes, and online subscription services that allow you to stream these games to newer consoles, not even requiring a download. Sony dropped the PS2 backwards compatibility with all future fat and slim models. As far as playing original PlayStation games though, it's the same story as last time. All PS3 models across the board contain the PS1 CPU and emulates the GPU, allowing for a smooth backwards compatibility experience. Something I didn't even know until I made this video. I tested it out on my slim model and it works great. Moving to controllers, the PS3 launched with the newly dubbed 6-axis controller and later the DualShock 3, both compatible with all PS3 models. Jumping a little bit into the future here, but the PS4 controllers are actually usable as well, if the PlayStation has been updated since mid-2014. They work when plugged in directly or when paired via Bluetooth. There are some caveats though.
Never knew that.
PlayStation button in the middle of the DualShock 4, that does not work on a PS3, and the DualShock 4 does not have pressure-sensitive buttons like the 6-axis or DualShock 3, so some games that require them, like Metal Gear Solid 4, will not work. Now to clean up some miscellaneous items, Blu-rays were the main optical disc format that PlayStation would use from the PS3 here on out, with every system that did have a disc drive, so basically everything except for the PlayStation 5 digital edition. If you had a PS2 iToy, you could plug that into the PS3 and use that there as well. It even worked on some PS3 games like Little Big Planet. Sony also sold an official memory card adapter, so you could bring your PS1 and PS2 saves onto your PS3.
Yes, yeah. We had a special device that allowed you to plug in a PlayStation 1 or 2 controller and a PlayStation 1 or 2 memory card for either live use or for just transferring saves, but also for using an old controller. We could use a PS1 or PS2 controller on our PS3 because we had this special controller plug thing.
I'm going out of order a little bit here, but the first PSP was released a couple years before the PS3 and had a trail of updated models embedded in the years to follow. These guys all could run these proprietary discs dubbed UMDs, all except for the PSP Go, which ditched the drive to only allow games to be played off of internal or external storage.
I like the PS
Vita. A true
though.
sequel to the PSP was released in 2012 in the form of the PlayStation Vita.
This was cool.
The Vita
I liked the
had its
Vita.
own proprietary game format in the form of Vita game cards. You could download old PSP games in the internal or external storage of the Vita, but you could not load UMDs in it. There was a program called UMD Passport, which allowed people who owned UMDs to take the serial number and whatnot of those UMDs, and for a small fee, import them into their PSP Vita. Note that this was only available in Japan.
I was gonna say, I'd never heard of that.
The PlayStation VR really quick. This piece of hardware is compatible with the PlayStation Move from the PS3 generation. It also requires a PS4 or PS5 to be functional, as well as a PS4
I never played those games.
Not a PS5 camera. The PSVR is compatible.
But I did play the one game that I know for certain that used pressure sensitive buttons that I definitely used on PlayStation 2 was and I think it worked the same in the PS3 versions of this game as well. Metal Gear Solid. In Metal Gear Solid, if you want to pull out your gun and aim it but not fire it, most games nowadays have you hold R1 to aim and then you press a button to fire, or something like that. But in Metal Gear Solid, that was before they had those kind of standards. Square was the aim button and the shoot button. If you just very lightly press in the square button, your character will pull out his gun, but he won't fire. And if you then, while still holding the button down, push it a little further, he'll fire the gun. And so that's an example there of like one where I knew for a fact that I used pressure sensitive buttons. Other than that, I don't know that any game that I ever played on PlayStation actually used the pressure sensitive buttons. I don't know of any. That's the only one I know. Feel like the PSP is older than Nintendo Switch. Definitely. The PSP came out in like the mid 2000s. PSP. When did it come out? 2004. The Switch came out in the mid 2010s. Yeah. PSP is very old. When did the Switch come out? God damn it. Wikipedia. 2017. 2017 is when Switch came out. So it's only 13 years younger. It means the Nintendo Switch copied PSP. Well, to be fair, PSP copied Game Boy. At the time, it was the Game Boy. It would have been the Game Boy Advance SP or the Game Boy. Actually, what Game Boys did they have a release of when? No, this is just the original. Okay. It would have been either the SP, or the first DS. When did the Game Boy DS come out? Nintendo DS. 2004. So yeah. So actually, wait, November 2004. The PSP came out a month after the DS. So those consoles are around the same age. Anyway.
With the DualShock 4 and compatible with the PS5 controller only for a few games. I'm expecting we'll see a PSVR 2 that is compatible with a lot more of the PS5 peripherals pretty soon.
Yes. It's very soon to come out, the PSVR 2.
Next up, the PlayStation 4, the second best-selling PlayStation console ever. Truly kind of a fresh start for Sony. The only peripheral from the last generation that carries over is the PlayStation Move. No PS3 discs, no PS2 discs, and for the first time, the original PlayStation discs are not compatible. Honestly, I think a lot of this forward thinking helped drive down the overall cost.
Unless it's outsold it. Oh, it did. Yeah, that's right. Last time I checked, one of the previous times I checked, the PS4 hadn't outsold the PS1. So, from my perspective, it was PS2, then PS1, then PS4. But no, PS4 has since outsold the PlayStation 1. And the PS5 is still slowly crawling its way up. But I think the PS5 is going to struggle in overall sales because of all the shit that's been going on with chips and stuff like that in the world.
PS4, that's why it was so successful. There wasn't so much concentration put on preserving
the PSP also had functionality to remote play your PS3, similar to Steam Link. I don't think the PSP had that. The PS Vita had that. But did the PSP have that? PSP. It's PS3 remote play. I know for a fact that oh, I think you might be right. I knew for a fact that the PS Vita had that, but I didn't know the PSP had that. Oh damn, yeah. Huh. Wow, I'm amazed the PSP worked with remote play. PS Vita worked, but it was like the graphics were significantly reduced. That's fascinating. Anyway.
Past. That is kind of to the consumer's detriment, though.
Francis?
There wasn't any preserving the past, but there was selling the past.
How you
like
doing?
I said earlier, you know, reselling
we're just
these
watching
old PS2, PS1
talking
games
PlayStation,
remastering,
looking at backwards
reselling,
compatibility.
whatever gets the consumer to pay for them again, to get them excited to play them again, to the point where they are pulling money out of their wallets. And to be fair, a lot of time had passed since the launch of the PS1 and PS2. There were a lot of new gamers in circulation who had never owned those consoles, and who had never
on the PS4 they
the classics
started
of
releasing
those
digital
systems.
copies
Is
of the
it more
PS2
convenient
games.
for them to look up an old copy on eBay of Final Fantasy VII, or to buy a digital copy right from the comfort of their own home? Even though the Xbox One was much more compliant with Xbox.
Sorry for pausing it all the time. But I'm just fascinated with this. What's interesting is that on the PS3, PS1 games started getting re-released on the PlayStation Store. PS1 games became like a thing. I used to search through what PS1 games had been released. Periodically I'd go through the list of PS1 classics on the PSN and see if I could get any of the newer games. Sorry, any of the old games had been added to the list. Yeah, new on the list, old games, whatever. But on the PS4, it actually shifted to being like the PS2 classics. PS4 didn't have the PS1 classics for some reason, even though you would have thought that the PS1 classics that worked on PS3 would probably work on PS4 as well, the digital versions. Whatever the case. It's the PS4 had a lot of digital editions of PS2 games. I still one day hope for some kind of like digital iterations of all the older games. PS1, PS2, PS3, etc. For now, I emulate.
Xbox 360 discs and other accessories, the PlayStation 4 still dominated.
I downloaded
over
that
the
PS3
generation of gaming, mainly due to a lot of external
emulator,
factors.
but I haven't
not
given
to
it a
sell them
try
short,
yet.
There was a lot of really good first-party titles, really strong hardware. You got to give it to them.
Yeah. So yeah, PS5 apparently fully backwards
And
compatible
that
with
brings us to
PS4.
the PS5 today. What old stuff can you use with the PS5? Well, if you own the disc edition PS5, you can load almost any PS4 disc into it and it'll play it flawlessly. You can even use your old DualShock 4 controllers to play PS4 games on the PS5. You cannot use the DualShock 4s to play PS5 games. One sad thing to note is that the PS5 is the first PlayStation console that cannot play audio CDs. Kinda sad.
Can't play audio
being that
CDs?
every single console beforehand could do that. The PS4 and PS5.
Who has audio CDs, to be fair? But whoa, that blows my mind. Oh, hey, Prow. Long time no see. Do like Nintendo does the old games where they'll re-release them and then they'll do like I will say, at least Sony doesn't do timed releases like Nintendo. That's so rude. El Pepito, can I try to speak French? What can I say in French? I studied French for a little bit, but I'm so bad at it because it was only a single semester. What's something I should say? Do I quote a lyric from a song? Try to speak nothing, please. No. Or do I try and remember one of my lines that I had to speak for French class? One word that I know that I've been praised before with my pronunciation is I went to France on a trip once after I had studied a little bit of French, but we stayed in Montpellier in the south. That's a word. That's a French word. One that's not so common. Be careful, I'm French. There's a person on the channel who is French, who's a very like well-known member of the channel, and they have personally told me that I pronounce Montpellier quite well. I don't know if you think that, but and whether I'm doing it right good now. It's been a while. I was gonna say I could just quote the song Fudu Fafa by the Flight of the Conchords. Look, wait. This is the ça va, ça va, ça va, ça va. Voilà la conversation, la conversation dans la parc. Something. Wait, le conversation. I'm trying to think of the lyric from the song. Le conversation dans le parc. Conversation at the park. Or in the park. Anyway.
I really feel like I stepped into the modern generation of streaming.
I'm so bad at it now.
No discs. Everything is done through apps that connect to these third-party servers.
I used to know French. I used to know a little bit of French. I know nothing now.
Alongside that is monthly subscription fees. And I've
8 out of 10.
just realized this now, but that's the ultimate message of this video of backwards compatibility. Backwards compatibility is being pushed to the side for, hey, instead of letting you bring your old hardware and putting it in our new hardware, it's, hey, we have all of your old software and hardware on our servers. If you want to use it, pay a monthly subscription and we'll let you use it. Sony has not completely converted to this business model yet, being that the PS5 is compatible with a lot of the PS4 stuff. But like I was kind of alluding to in the PS4 section, does it make any sense to make hardware compatible with discs that were made 25 years ago? No, it really doesn't. Personally, I'm in the minority. I'm sure
your English is wonderful.
This optical media from the PS1
English is a
PS2,
confusing mess,
PS3
so if you can speak
of
any of it,
course I'd like it to be compatible.
It's always
with newer
impressive.
Stuff, but I'm getting old. This younger generation, they were born in the PS3, PS4 era. They don't have this media, and they can't go out to a store.
I really
want
to play
So if I were
Demon
to
Souls,
predict
the
where
remake.
the PS6 would land in terms of backwards compatibility, I think it'll be compatible with PS5 discs as well as PS4 discs, similar to how the PS3 was compatible with PS1 discs. It's all about the rule of 3. But who knows, I'm likely wrong. Lately we've been plateauing in terms of hardware. The time between hardware generations is getting longer and longer, and the advancements in graphics and fidelity is getting smaller and smaller.
You're doing good.
So will there even be a PS6? Only time will tell.
Big.
Maybe there'll be just a end-all be-all PlayStation hardware platform.
Yes.
Or maybe we'll just start to get them every, like 25 years instead of every 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
I hadn't heard about
and
System
maybe
Shock.
we have a Netflix subscription-based service ahead of us. Maybe streaming games will become the norm. Instead of buying a game, you pay a monthly subscription and you just stream these games from external database. You don't download anything. It's just connecting to an online.
Just to hold just to pause the guy for a second. He's right. They probably will start switching over to like a streaming service, but I still think they'll stream you the game. They'll stream the files to you, and then you'll run it on a system. I don't think fully streamed games is the future. Yeah, there's so many games coming out this March. You're right, and like I think for me, the game that I'm going to probably choose in terms of like what I play, if I play something on the channel, what I'll play, it's gonna be Resident Evil 4, the remake for Resident Evil 4. I know that's coming out at some point in March, and that's probably gonna be the game that I choose. Because I love Resident Evil 4, and I'm so curious to see what they do with the remake, because it looks like they're changing a bunch of shit. And Resident Evil 4 was kind of a masterpiece of sorts. So, like, whether the changes they made are for the better or for the worse, I'm very curious to find out.
Service and playing the game on that server. With the recent shutdown of services like Google Stadia, I think it's safe to say that game streaming is not going to become the norm tomorrow. But that could very well change as technology advances. At the end of the day, I want this video to remain a time capsule of the last 5 generations of PlayStation. Next up, I think I'm gonna tackle Nintendo in terms of backwards compatibility. But
I'm so curious as to what like backwards compatibility is like on other consoles. It seemed like it showed early on a Xbox breakdown, and it looked like most Xboxes have some compatibility with the previous generations, but I believe it's limited. Every generation has pretty limited backwards compatibility, but it still has some amount of backwards compatibility. It'll always try. I think that's the thing, is that on Xbox, the later Xbox consoles will always try to play the earlier ones, but whether they're able to or not, or whether they function or not, is questionable. Just like with the PS3, the PS3's PS2 backwards compatibility was always questionable. There were some games that just straight up weren't playable on PS3. Yeah, I mentioned Jak and Daxter. Jak and Daxter, there was this one section, you could play it to begin with. It was a little bit buggy here and there, but it was like playable up until this is one bit where it just became like it just lagged out like crazy, and like the ground wouldn't spawn in and you'd fall through it and like drown in the water that's below the ground, and it just was like a soft, well, no, it was a hard lock, like, barrier for continuing into the game. And, so yeah, it was unplayable. Source Engine Tick System explained. Oh, I was wondering about this the other day, actually.
Hi. Ever since I made 2 videos showing Half-Life 2 at extremely high and low tick rates, people have been asking me what a tick rate is and why extreme values cause so many issues. Or just
I think it was
saying
his
completely incorrect things
I think it was
about the way it
Pinsplash's video
works.
that we were watching.
I've also wished to make more technical videos for my channel, so this is a perfect opportunity to explain what a tick rate is. To answer your questions, I first need to explain what a tick is, and you won't fully understand ticks until you understand the issues with the alternatives. Computers and by extension video games don't work like the real world does in many ways. When playing a video game, the experience usually feels like an intuitive representation of reality, but the truth is, everything in a video game and your entire computer only occurs at intervals. A computer can only do one small step of a process at a time, no matter how fast it's doing it. Computers can't operate in a truly continuous fashion, but rather at intervals so fast they create an illusion of continuity. This is a problem for video games since most of them are attempting to emulate real life to some degree, something which we experience continuously, not in intervals. Early video games dealt with this problem by basically just not caring. A game would run its internal logic as fast as possible, for example, moving characters around or progressing dialogue, and then once it knew what to display, it would do the necessary work to display the new state of the world, which was dictated by the game's logic. For now, we can call this process a frame. Frames would keep happening in perpetuity, as fast as the hardware would allow. As computers became faster, they could process a game's logic and graphics faster, meaning they could do it more frequently. Since the game was designed to simply let it do it as fast as possible, you can probably begin to see the problem with code that's as simple as, during this frame, if the player is pressing left, put them 5 pixels to the left. If your computer was twice as fast as your old one, everything would now occur twice as fast.
This was a really serious problem. We, old games didn't have frame limiters. So they just ran as fast as the frame rate would allow, and old computers could only run things at a certain frame rate. So, like, early Windows PCs, for instance, I have personal experience with, the first Resident Evil game. The first Resident Evil game is a fully 3D game, available on PlayStation and on PC. It did not have a frame limiter. It must have been designed for like Windows 95 or Windows 98, and the computers it was designed for were not particularly powerful. We played Resident Evil. We managed to get Resident Evil running on our XP. I think was it XP or was it Windows 7? I think it was XP. We managed to get Resident Evil 1 running on an XP in like 2004 or something, or 2003. And let's just say that game was impossible to play on XP because the frame rate on a more modern system with much more powerful hardware, the frame rate was so high that your character would just like like cross the whole room in just like a fraction of a moment of pressing the button to move in the direction. And so you get to the first room with like a zombie in it. Firstly, it's terrifying because the zombie moves so fast towards you, and you like have to like whip around and zoom in the other direction. And then for me, the part that I like gave up on was I gave up even trying to play it. Was there's this one hallway in Resident Evil 1 where when you first run down it, there's like windows along the edges of the room, and dogs smash through the window and come and attack you. At the high frame rate, they smashed through and were attacking me before I could even react to their presence. I died like almost instantaneously because they just like the speed at which they smashed through and attacked me was so fast. And yeah, the needless to say, the shock of that happening so fast, I couldn't handle playing anymore. I never had any original Xbox games to play on my Xbox 360 anyway. Ah, right. Yeah, the tastes like banana with cookie flavor. Remnants of cookie. I knew some friends who had both, but I never asked them about it. They never really mentioned it. I feel like, once again, during the Xbox era, the Xbox 360 era, I remember people talking about the fact that not all Xbox games were completely compatible with Xbox 360. Many of them were, though. But they were constantly releasing patches. I remember there was a thing that was like, they would talk about how it's like, I remember people talking about how it's like, oh, this game is now compatible with Xbox 360. And it was a constant flow of like, oh, these games are now compatible with Xbox 360. Assuming, like, I'm assuming, meaning that like Microsoft was adding patches to the Xbox 360 that shored up some kind of software that meant that the game would run better, run more smoothly, run compatibly, you know.
Your character would move twice as fast, enemies would move twice as fast.
Yeah, like this.
And if the game had a day and night system, that would probably also be twice as fast. Now imagine trying to play such a game on 21st century hardware. It would be nigh impossible. When game developers realized this, they started thinking about how they could fix it. One thing was clear: if you know the hardware, you can plan accordingly. One solution was to just know specifically what hardware the game is running on. Apparently this was the idea in GoldenEye 007, a game that only released on the Nintendo 64. The Nintendo 64 was always going to be the Nintendo 64. The hardware was unlikely to ever significantly change. Consoles do get new models released over time, but they're usually nothing earth-shattering. Your game can't speed up if the hardware is too slow.
Yeah.
Except it could. If you look down, the game would only have to display the ground and nothing else.
Yeah.
Less time spent on graphics means game logic runs more frequently. The speedrunners of this game abuse this fact to get better times. Another solution was to outright limit the game's frame rate. Your game can't speed up if you say it's not allowed to.
Yeah.
But it can still slow down, and with all the different hardware out there, consumers did not like having their FPS limited. The lower it is, the more choppy everything looks, and people like their games not choppy. I'm pretty sure this is the approach taken by many old games. You probably know at least a few. The first decent solution was something called delta timing. Let's go back to that small code example from before. Instead of moving 5 pixels, let's make it move 5 times dt. dt is a variable representing the duration of the current frame. Let's say the frame rate is 50. A single frame would last 0.02 seconds.
This is exactly how Unity does it. 50 frames a second.
Times that by 5, and now the player would move 0.1 pixels every frame, or 5 pixels per second. In a perfect world, this would be the end of the video. But there's one problem. How do you know how long the frame will last before it's finished? You don't. The length of the previous frame is probably a close estimate, but it will never be perfectly accurate because frames are never perfectly stable. I admit I'm not too familiar with actual implementations of delta timing in
the way, from what I understand, it doesn't use current frame time. It uses time since previous frame. So that's how much it will go based on the time since the previous frame. With the aim of it being 50 frames a second.
Actual games, but it's clear that the system is not perfect in many. In Grand Theft Auto 5 at high FPS, this car will slide along so far that it eventually causes a mission fail for no reason. Skyrim was developed by Bethesda. The FPS-related quirks of Spyro Reignited Trilogy, like being able to jump higher on lower FPS, caused speedrunners to create a rule that your game can only be set between 30 and 60 FPS for runs. Did you know that I like speedruns? There was one other idea, which is what Valve did. Now, I don't mean to imply that Source is the first or only game engine to do this. Somebody had surely thought of this before, and I just don't know them. Anyway, Source just says, why run game logic strictly on every frame anyway? Source mostly decouples the two steps, game logic and graphics, that other game engines always do one after the other. A single step in graphics is still called a frame, and a single step in game logic is called a tick, or in some places a game frame, but we'll stick with tick for clarity. Frames are allowed to occur as often as possible, and ticks are scheduled to occur at regular controlled
how
intervals.
Unity does it.
The frequency of the ticks is...
In Unity, the development tool that I prefer, you have frame rate, which is where graphics is handled, your frames per second, which can be whatever you want it to be. And then there are basically physics frames, if you will, where physics or game logic is handled, which it happens 50 times a second. And you use those like time value things to determine basically you use it to modify values so that a certain value will happen over time, happen relative to that frame rate time.
What a tick rate is. Half-Life 2's normal tick rate is 66. and in my 2 videos I set it to 11 and 400. Source still in a way does delta timing, except with DT being reliant on ticks instead of frames. That's why a decent amount of the game still functioned properly. It's why I didn't move slowly in the 11 tick video, for instance. So now you might be wondering, if game logic was only running 11 times per second in this video, why didn't we see it in 11 FPS? I'm glad you hypothetically asked that, hypothetical viewer. The answer is called interpolation. When a frame is ready to happen before the next tick is finished, instead of just continuing to render the world how it looked at the last tick, it creates an in-between image using the next tick. Now you may notice that that doesn't make sense. How can it see into the future? It does that by actually showing you everything slightly in the past.
Does the timing with update and fixed times. Well, that's what I was saying. Is it's like oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. The way I sort of interpret it is that the update, because like the update function runs every visual frame, which is using things like it uses delta time as opposed to fixed delta time, which is based on time since previous frame. But then your fixed time step with fixed update is your physics, what they call the physics frame, or physics cycle, if you will. And it's fixed. It's always 50 times a second. Although I imagine there are probably scenarios in which that gets thrown off, and I'm wondering if, like, I'm curious as to how they make sure it's always 50 times a second with fixed update. I never really stopped to think about it.
What you see happening is a fraction of a second behind the actual state of the game. You may also wonder about the opposite. How is the game managing to run at 400 ticks per second when my FPS is far lower? The answer is fairly simple. It just processes multiple ticks per frame. It's a bit more complex than that, but we should move on because this video still has not answered the big question it was meant to answer. The exact code information is publicly available online in certain places, but I won't show it here for legal reasons. Instead, I'll post a link to an online guide that does roughly the same thing that Source does. So now you hopefully understand why ticks exist and why they're generally a sound system. Now we may talk about what makes extreme high and low tick rates give such odd results. It can be summed up in one word: assumptions. When programming stuff, Valve made assumptions here and there about what the tick rate would be. Just like all those other programmers before made assumptions about...
Like if you're a Unity developer, you're making assumptions that the fixed update is always going to run 50 times a second. So if you suddenly change the rate at which fixed update runs, you change the fixed delta time, then
what the frame rate would
some
be.
crazy
Valve wrote
behavior
code
will
assuming the
begin.
tick rate would always be 66, or at least that it wouldn't be something unreasonable like 400. For most of the bugs I showed in my videos, I don't imagine I'd have any luck tracking down specifically where the code went wrong, but I can do that for...
I think it just repeats until it's caught up. So call fixed update in loop until you're caught up with delta time. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those questions that I don't know if I'll ever know the true... Well, we'll have to... Unless they say so, say exactly what the deal is, I don't know if we'll ever know exactly. That's what Google said. Oh, okay. Ah, interesting. But what if it can't? What if it, like, it's constantly... Something in the loop is causing it to be delayed. I guess it just runs at a lower rate. And it's just, like, it's all messed up. Yeah, I'm curious. What's your favorite video game ever? I can never answer that. I have too many favorites. I have way too many favorite video games. The ones that I always bring up are, like, I love Tombi for the PlayStation 1. I loved Portal. I love... What's another game that's, like, on that same kind of level? I mean, there's so many. Conic phone. No. Only says, if the application runs at 25 frames per second, Unity calls it approximately twice per frame. Alternatively, 100 FPS causes approximately 2 rendering frames with one fixed update. Right, yes. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I'd be curious to see if something is capable of throwing off the fixed update. Like, rapidity. Like, rapidness with which it runs fixed update. Could there ever be a scenario where it doesn't run 50 times a second? And if so, does it speed up to match it? Or does it, like, I wonder how it handles that. I've never stress tested it before. Yeah, what other games do I love? Oh, like Command and Conquer, Red Alert 2, Yuri's Revenge, specifically. What's another game? Yeah, games that I modified, and therefore I must have loved quite a bit. Your Command and Conquer. Portal. It's, like maybe Little Big Planet, but I don't know if I'd say that's one of my favorites ever. I didn't modify it, but I worked on the in-game tools a lot. Yeah. I love Silent Hill 3. I love Final Fantasy X. I love too many games to say what my favorite game is. There's just too many.
At least one instance,
Half-Life 1.
the airboat gun. The gun fired very slowly in the 11-tick video and very quickly in the 400-tick video. The airboat's drive vehicle function is programmed to run once every tick. Drive vehicle is mainly concerned with physics, which on its own is probably fine, but this is also where the boat's gun code resides. All of the code for the gun is therefore run every tick.
Again.
Every time the gun code runs, it checks to see if you're trying to fire it, and if you are, it fires a single bullet. Just like that, you've made a gun that fires at 66 rounds per second. Or 11. Or 400. At no point does this code attempt to slow itself down. It would be very easy though. All you'd have to do is remember the last time the gun fired, and then on future ticks, check if the current time is greater or less than the time that the last bullet was fired at.
That's how you do rate of fire. Although, using that method of rate of fire is how you get differences in rate of fire. There was a video we watched once before that was talking about Doom, early Doom games, rate of fire. Was it Doom? No, it might have been Serious Sam or Quake. It was some some first person shooter of old that had like something weird going on with the fire rate, with the rate of fire. I have a feeling it just keeps a running total of delta time, and then if that value is above the time step, then it does a fixed update, then subtracts by the fixed time step. Right, maybe. I'm not sure. I'd be curious to see how it goes. Don't know what time it is at your house, but I have. Oh, you gotta say good night. Yeah. Oh, see you. Have a good night. Double click. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night. Yeah, it's 10:50 a.m. here, so it's you're exactly 12 hours difference in time. So yeah. Untitled user, Half-Life is your favorite game? Yeah, fair enough. Or are you just saying, ooh, Half-Life? Anyway, we should continue.
Plus some extra amount representing a refire rate. What's weird about this is that Valve did do this twice in this function, but for unrelated reasons. One was for periodically allowing perfectly accurate shots, and the other was for shaking the screen.
Right. Yeah. It's I love seeing this shit. I love seeing this. So fascinating. Honestly, open sourceness is why I've been spending a lot more time in Unreal, lol. Right. I see what you mean, yeah. Huh. I was for a while there trying to make a game in Unreal. Just like a test game thing. Just to learn Unreal. But I never really got anywhere with that. I think I lost motivation when there was two things. I ended up making Laugh Tony Baloney, which I decided I made in Unity instead. But also, I lost motivation because of things in my real life. They've stopped updating Gartic Phone? Oh. Oh, 2D and Unreal? No. Yes. Yeah. I believe that was the thing, is like, Unreal's never been intended to be 2D, but Unity literally had a huge, like, time period where they were, like, making the 2D good. And so, while Unity is still technically a 3D engine, they made the 2D aspects of the engine, like, just so much better. Because there was a time where 2D sucked on Unity as well. But, oh, I was doing it in blueprints mode. Because I'm not super good with C++, so I was like, I tried it in blueprints mode. But then there were times where I just wanted to write something. And so I did do some C++ work in Unreal. It was UE5, I believe, I was working on. I wanted to get ahead. I was like, I'm gonna get ahead of the game, do UE5. And then it was honestly probably a mistake because there's not that many, at the time, there weren't that many tutorials for UE5 specifically. Heavily recommend this video. Okay, yeah. I would like to at some point, so I shall check this out. Oh, it did that again. Get rid of this. Okay. How they think it fit together and why you should use both. Yeah. From what I understand, C++, just the straight C++, is well more efficient. This entire channel is great. I definitely watched a video similar to this.
Unreal Engine gives you multiple options. It makes sense to use C++.
Wait, I'm just going to skip through.
If I have a custom actor type and I want it to...
Okay, no, this isn't the video I watched, but I did watch a video that was talking about the, like, benefits and the downsides of both. But I was going to say that what I remember seeing is that, oh, this is the video you were talking about. Yeah. Damn. It's too bad that's private now. Completely changed how I thought about the engine. Ah, right, yeah. I just remember seeing something about how it was like, blueprints, while apparently the people who made Unreal, they're really trying to push the idea for blueprints, for people to just use blueprints for everything. But apparently blueprints just aren't as efficient, or just there's something about blueprints that isn't quite as good as just doing straight C++. Of course. But, yeah, you can use both in projects, and it's recommended you do so. Because certain things with blueprints just work. They're just so much easier to make and iterate on with blueprints. But certain times you just want C++. I have seen this video before, as you can see. But I don't remember what the video was about. Right, yes. About the new features. New features that were added to Minecraft.
So, I'm still trying to rack my brain around how to feature the stuff in this snapshot. If you are a long-time subscriber, I used to do a lot of technical things and try to explain things very technically, but I've long drifted away
Yeah, what he just pointed out. That's something I wanted to point out as well. Oh my god, go back. Why won't it go back? YouTube has removed the ability to sort by old on the videos list now. There's something... There's a piece of skin fucking reflecting the light in my hair. You can't sort by old anymore. Why did they remove that? I've used that multiple times to get to... used that multiple times to get to my oldest videos. And now they removed it. Because they've got recently uploaded and popular. Are the only, like, filter options now. And I'm like, what the heck? It's probably there probably is a browser extension for it, you're right. I probably just need to find the browser extension. C++ has performance, engine functionality, lots of functions aren't exposed to blueprints, yeah. Ability to use third-party libraries, version control, yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I will definitely have a look at it because I really do want to learn. I need to learn C++. That is a problem that I have, is that I don't know C++ very well. So, like one of the interviews I went to, they wanted me to know C++. So when I tried to do it, and I went to the interview, and then I proved for certain that I don't know C++ very well. Embarrassing. Because I can answer all the questions, like I could answer all the logic and stuff like that, and when it came to the programming stuff, I was able to explain myself of like everything what I planned to do, but I just couldn't program it. Because I mean I could, but it would have taken me ages. But yeah, um, whereas like yeah, I'm all C sharp, you know. Oh, yes, I think you've told me about that before. Um, this channel, Cerno. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I need to just buckle down and learn it. You can probably skip a fair amount with your current knowledge, but he explains the complicated C++ topics so well. Right, yeah. Yes, yes. So that's something that really threw me when learning C++, was the way that the like weird file structure that you need to do for everything. Right, okay. Yeah, yeah, I'll definitely watch those. I'm saving I'm got a bunch of tabs that I'm gonna check out after the stream. I'm gonna keep an eye on the time though, because I only have about half an hour, 40 minutes left that I can stream. Yeah, yeah, Tiana. I mean, if you want to learn C++ as well, that I would highly recommend. Um, uh, the only thing is that if you're working with Unity, it's in C sharp rather than C++. C++ is a really good language to know, but C sharp is a little bit easier, a little bit more straightforward. In my opinion, it's a little bit easier to learn. If you want to get in, if you're like just getting into programming, I would recommend C sharp. No, I mean I've got them. I've got them here, but actually, yeah. Why don't post them somewhere on the Discord? Post them in like the what channel would be good? Um, like one of the community ones maybe, or uh even the mod chat. But no, I kind of want other people to be able to see them. So yeah, somewhere in the community stuff. Also, yeah. Yeah, GameMaker's Toolkit, while they're called GameMaker's Toolkit, have great Unity tutorial stuff as well. So, yeah. Anyway.
Technically, but I've long drifted away from that since then because I want my channel to be
My
more
background is
accessible.
slowly
But a lot of the
disappearing.
changes in this snapshot are technical. We do now have a /damage command, so we can now kill ourselves with a bunch of different things like bad
Yes.
respawn points, intentional game design, drying out, which was the dehydration thing. People thought that we could get thirsty. Thirst. We've got generic, which is just died. Mob attack, no aggro. What the hell?
Heck?
That's so funny. We don't have any selectors here. Unattributed fireball.
Brackies was great back in the day, but Unity has changed a lot since he stopped making them. Yeah, that's true. Brackies was great. I really loved Brackies. I learned some really interesting things from Brackies. I still think though that Brackies is still... Brackies still has a lot of good stuff. I would still recommend Brackies. But yes, you're right. There a lot of like things, a lot of like nuances to do with what he used to teach have changed. So it's probably better that you learn new stuff and use Brackies as like a supplementary thing if you're just looking for a specific feature. Yeah, yeah. It looks like a swear. Yeah, yeah. Run with slave by.
Burned to death. So we can now apply damage directly to the player without using things like /kill and /effect give instant damage. Yes, this came from Bedrock Edition. We know. That's not really that technical. I have to admit, some of the most intriguing updates that are released in Minecraft are often inaccessible to the public because they are very technical, esoteric, until there's someone out there who can demonstrate to you guys just how cool it is. That's why I'm here. But do bear with me. I'm going to give myself a honey block right here, and I'm going to place it right in front of me. There we go. Very simple block. And now what I'm going to do is summon a new entity type in Minecraft called block display. It's like an item frame, but for blocks. And now I can walk through this block because it's not a block, it's an entity.
Yeah.
It's like a mob. And now I'm going to change this block in ways that have never been done before. First of all, command block. Just going to place it over here so you can
2D
see what I'm doing.
Minecraft clones?
First, what I'm
Right,
gonna do
yeah,
is
yeah.
just move it up like that, and then back down to its original position. Like that. Then I can move it left and right, back and forth, you know, all the basic stuff. Now I can also do something crazy like this. I can blow it up, and even more, to scales that have never been seen in vanilla Minecraft. This is the same honey block that I placed over there.
Yeah, very good point.
But is now gigantic. I have done so many things with this already. You might think, oh,
that's the thing,
well,
is so many of the
bigger.
people
No,
I've seen,
it's gonna get even bigger.
like there are
and
lots of
bigger.
people in my
There's almost no end to this. This is
when I was
so
doing the
exciting,
game development,
honestly. Now this is all
when I was working in the game development hub at my old high school, so many students who who were there from the fact that they had worked on Minecraft mods or something, or that they were interested in making Minecraft mods or something like that. So there's gonna be a bunch who have come from that.
possible.
For me, I came from, there's a program called Tibed, which stands for Tiberium Editor. That was mod tools made to modify the Tiberium games as well as the Red Alert games, the Command and Conquer games. I came from Tibed. I came from Pivot. That's not a mod tool, but it's like, you know, animation tool. And then like a game maker. I'm a game maker kid. I was futzing around in Game Maker for years before I discovered Unity, and yeah. I was playing with the old Game Maker though. The one that was very, very different. Like, programming was not common in that old Game Maker. So the script system that they had at the time was so very different from what they have now. Anyway.
Through transformation matrices and interpolation. There used to be hard and fast limits to model sizes and displays in Minecraft. Now, that's all gone. I'm gonna fly inside it. If you wanna really see... Oh, it's gone. It still has rendering problems, and that's just because Minecraft needs to know that you're still rendering the actual thing. But to demonstrate the real power of this, here's a tiny little Steve. Okay, and I'm just gonna spin him out of control. And now I'm going to spin him out of control.
Inverted. And flattened.
Oh, I didn't mean for that. Give him some depth. He's still inside out. Let's stretch him out properly. Like this. There we go. Make him normal again.
Normal.
Cool. Scale him back to normal. Nice.
There we go.
There we go. We have Steve. Perfect. And here's another thing. That's fairly primitive that I did. So here's a block. Here's another block that falls down. Another block that falls down. Another block that falls down. And another block that falls down. Physics. It looks pretty bad, I know. This one's much better by Padbox. They're a Minecraft modder and probably applied actual mathematical calculations to this, which you can actually do and achieve incredible things. And here's another one by Data Nagasi, which is just a sticky piston, but not actually a sticky piston. But anyway, I know a lot of you guys, including me, are just waiting for archaeology.
Make Steve skinny.
I certainly cannot pass up an opportunity for stuff like this.
That's right.
There we go.
Wide Steve, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, there's some interesting new mechanics for Minecraft. I had already seen that video before, but yeah, the I can see a lot of developers using a lot of those mechanics, a lot of those tools. Pardon me. I actually managed to get a tissue in time before I sneezed. But yeah. Oh, we got the Gay Station 3. I was trying to jailbreak my PS3 and he did this. Duh. Where's the buttons? There. I'm assuming he's changed the way the logo looks. Okay, that's it. That's it. Dear. Wow. Yeah. Same for electronic engineers and Redstone? Yes, very good point. That'd be interesting. Oh, interesting. That could be it. That like that weird way that you can now like pose blocks implemented for archaeology. Gotta say, archaeology was disappointing compared to what they showed at Minecraft Live. Yeah, I was kind of taken aback when I saw like originally they had this like design where they had like a pot, but it was like a pot that it had like segments of the surface that you could like put different pieces on, and it looked like it was gonna have like you could put like 5 or 6 pieces on it, and you had to heat it. You had to heat it from the bottom with like a campfire or some kind of. You had to basically build a kiln to heat the pot to make it a full clay. And instead, they made it so that there's 4 sides. I get why they did the 4-side thing. Yeah, now it's just a crafting recipe. It's so disappointing. I still think they should have made it so they should have made a block type where like a furnace, they should have made a kiln. It's probably what they should have done is they should have made a kiln object which you put in. You have like 5 slots. You put in clay, and then you put in 4 pieces of clay pot, and then that gets turned into a clay pot for you to then place. Probably should have made something like that. I know that's not as cool as having it like literally be fire underneath it, like in the live, but that's in my mind that's how I would have done it personally. I think I would have wanted them to make a kiln to fire it. Was that yes, the block changed height as you brushed it. Yeah. I totally get why they changed it to the because changing the block height thing is like a fundamental shift in the way that a lot of blocks work. So I get why they made it so it just like slowly pops out of the block. I totally get that. Yeah. That one bothers me way less. I think for me it's the design of the pot is so very different, and the fact that you don't burn it. You know, you don't cook it. You don't cook the clay. You just put 4 pieces of the design on it and it just turns into a pot. That's so disappointing. In my opinion. So disappointing. And there's only and the design of the pot shifted quite drastically, and the newer design is less interesting to me, but only like it looks fine. I think the new design looks fine, but I think the old design looked cool. Yes, yeah, that's true. That is true. Originally, it was supposed to be like how fast you brushed it mattered. Holding down a button's already bad for accessibility. You're right. Yeah, that's true. Oh, you're gonna have a haircut. Ah. Well, I hope that you get a good one, Nathan. I hope that the hairdresser doesn't do you dirty. Yes, fireflies. They found out that fireflies are bad for frogs, so they don't want to teach that. You know, to be, they don't want to be responsible for someone feeding fireflies to their frog. Yeah. No, Fireboy. The reason they didn't add the fireflies is because they were originally designed to purely be food for the frogs, that they were adding at the same time. But they found out, some people told them, fireflies are bad for frogs. And so they hastily removed them. There was something else that I remember. There was something else. Let's just say there's a few things that Mojang have done that I'm surprised they didn't know that that's a thing. Or yeah, there was one other thing. I mean, there was the whole cookies and parrots thing. Yeah, parrots and cookies is the classic, as Tiana just pointed out there. Yeah, the cookies have chocolate in them. Chocolate is highly toxic to parrots. You don't want to be feeding parrots chocolate. Cacao. There was something else that they did, and I'm like, I don't know if that's if that's the right thing to... Fuck, what was it? Some other animal thing. Nope. It's gone. I remember thinking about it a while ago. I was like, I remember thinking to myself, they removed the fireflies thing, but then there was this other thing in the game, and I was like, the fact they don't seem to be bothered by that is quite fascinating. I don't remember. I read earlier that there was once a bug in 1.13 where villagers would decrease their prices when submerged in water. Waterboarding villages was advantageous. Nice. Oh, hey Damien, how you doing? Your arrival is always joined by a rainbow. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The villagers and stuff villager stuff has been crazy ever since they first added villagers. Like just enslavement and waterboarding and like zombification and then unzombifying them. Making them sell stuff for cheaper. Like, you infect them and then cure them and they're like, oh, thank you. I am the gay brother after all. And I'm the gay uncle. Anyway, sleep. What do we got here? Cute video. Cat gives the husky a massage before settling down for a nap. Yeah. Aw, this is gonna be cute. This is gonna be really cute. Yeah, I'm pretty good. Things are looking a little bit more up in my real life. Still haven't got a job though. So there's that. But I'm working on it. That's the best-selling game of all time. There's a lot more objective eyes on it. Yeah. Yeah, we see it as game stuff, and other people are like, "What the fuck?" Morally reprehensible. Yeah. Aww. He's giving him a massage. He's making biscuits, making cookies. That husky is like so used to this. He's like, yeah. Just get it over with. Uncle because father wouldn't suit you, and also because of the daddy word. Maybe, but no, it's because there have been a few times now. I am an uncle now. I have a nephew. But I also, like, uncle has its own bad connotations, it's true. It's because, like, in the family dynamic in my real life, I'm the closest thing to the drunk gay uncle. I'm the uncle who's always wearing like Hawaiian shirts or like bright, colorful, like florally shirts, and I'm drinking my mocktail, and I've got my gay, my boyfriend. See, I'm the closest thing to the drunk gay uncle, or just the drunk uncle. That's a good position to have. Yeah. I'm the uncle who's just like living life, having fun. Meanwhile, the other side of the family is like having a family, dealing with the stresses of a family, and meanwhile I'm over here playing games, drinking, and having a great time. Yeah, I'm currently just wearing a t-shirt at the moment, but I usually wear a shirt over the top of my t-shirt, and most of the time it's like florally Hawaiian kind of shirt. I'm the Hawaiian shirt guy, the one wearing like big floral thing over the top of whatever I'm wearing. It's my style. Usually something that like that just sort of flows and just drapes. I wish. I would love to go to Hawaii. I'm not much of a beach guy, but I like the aesthetic. Yeah, Hawaiian shirts are great. Ever since I was a little kid, I've worn Hawaiian shirts. Well, being gay is great because you turn all the annoying pressure to have kids from your family into bigotry. Yeah, yeah. You turn all the requirements of life into just bigotry. People being like mad about you being gay. Ding. And if you don't care what they think, then you just get to live your life and have a good time. You don't have that pressure to have family because people don't expect you to have family. My floral shirts, however, are so long they go down to my thighs. Oh no. They're also see-through, so I only wear them in summer. Right, right. Well, that's cool. That's interesting. In fact, I'm getting a new visual of what that looks like with the see-through, the see-through down to your down to your thighs, though. Yeah, I mean, a lot of my clothes I do wear are like long like that as well. It's fun because it like drapes, so you can, you know, it's like it's even though it's an extra layer, it's weirdly makes you feel breezy and like cool. If only your parents knew. Oop. Yeah, yeah. Consider a few photos. Like, okay, okay, yeah, yeah. I'm curious to see what they look like. Yes, yeah. That's fair. That's fair. All right. I still to this day wish that I managed to get myself a Steam controller. I'm sad that I can't get Steam controllers anymore. Is he just rotating the vibrating the vibrating sections? New Zealand similar to Hawaii? Not really. It's people think of New Zealand as being like this like island life shit. It's not. New Zealand is very similar, especially if you live in Auckland, very similar to all the other cities and stuff. Oh, I'm streaming at the moment. Yeah. Hi. Hi. My nephew just stepped in to the flat. Yeah, I got about 20 minutes left of the stream, so they're gonna be in the background. My nephew likes to play with all my figurines and toys and stuff that I've gathered over the years. But you have a Steam controller still in the box from when they were on clearance? Yes, they were going for like £5, but only in the places that Steam would sell them. So like Valve sold them in see you. Bye, Jared. Bye. He's in that age where he's like talking now. Yeah, they were selling them for like £5 in like the US and the UK and in some parts of Europe. But here in New Zealand, you had to buy them through a third-party site. Like, I had to buy them through EB Games, or EB Games being owned by GameStop. Yeah, time flies. It's crazy. But I had to buy them through some other store here, and so they didn't have those sales for it. Sadly. So I remember at the time I was like, oh my god, they're selling them for $5. I like looked at the stores here in New Zealand and they were all still like $80, $100, and I was just like, that sucks. Yeah. 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 No, we have some like beachy kind of environments here, but like life here is very different to in Hawaii. Still feel like I'm in 2022. Yeah. To me, it still feels like 2020. Ever since the pandemic, time has just like stopped, or it's gone to a crawl for me. The years are like zooming past, but it still feels like 2020. It's still weird to me that New Zealand seems like a third world country with our little valve seems to care. Yes, that's the thing, is that like that used to be the case with like when it came to games and movies and stuff like that. I'll just let this play in the background. When it came to games and movies and stuff in the past, it used to be like we'd get things 3 months late, or you know, like it would take ages for stuff to get to us. But like in the modern era, as of like the mid-thousands, New Zealand caught up, and we were getting stuff released at the same time here as everywhere else in the world. In fact, there were a few times when New Zealand was the first place where something was released, because it was released on a date. And so we were the first to reach that date. So it got released in New Zealand first before everywhere else. But then Valve just does not give a shit about anywhere but America and Europe. Even though Australia is like their biggest TF2 market. Or at least it used to be. It used to be for a long time that Australia would made up the biggest market for TF2. And so, like, the fact that they just do not give a shit about Australia and New Zealand is really sad. And still to this day, if I want to get a... Wait, I'm gonna bring it up. I looked up a Steam Deck. I was like, how much would it cost if I was gonna get a Steam Deck for myself? If I want to get a Steam Deck, this is the only seller that I know that sells it. It is $1,600 for the good one, for the one that I'd want to go for, which equates to NZD in USD. It equates to 995 American dollars. Yeah. It is like 400 or something like that, or 600? If I go into Steam Deck's website, the Steam Deck website, the Valve website, wait, where is it? They have a breakdown of the prices. Where is it? Where's the breakdown? I could have sworn there was a breakdown somewhere on here of the prices. Shit, where is it? The other day I was looking at Steam Decks and I saw oh, here is it here? Yeah. So, once again, bring this up over here. For the 512 gigabyte one that I want to go for, it should be $650 US. This equates to 900, basically 1,000 US. So I would be paying $350 more to buy it here than to buy it in America. It would be cheaper for me to buy it in America, get someone and use one of those services that gets it to get delivered to a US address and then gets on forward shipped to me. It would be cheaper to do that. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, and Gabe has been living down here. Take note of New Zealand. It's just probably, for cost-wise, it probably just isn't worth it for them. What's TF2? I only know Overwatch 2. Yeah. It's okay, it's okay. Maddie, too late, I'm killing you. Yeah, it's pretty good. Overwatch 2 for being free, it's a great game. It is just basically Overwatch 1, but like slightly modernized. But yeah. I would recommend it. T-Rock Galactic got you covered? Nice. Yeah. I found the audio system was more variety than I could want. Right. 1,000 hours in DOG and I pretty much never changed my loadout. Yeah, that's fair. That's like me, that's me. I never... yeah. Valve seems to be doing most of this themselves. Yeah. I think it's just to do with the fact that they don't want, like, it cost-wise, going to New Zealand and Australia, it's just not worth it for them because they're running their own shipping system, and they got a picture of Elden Ring being played on it. Their logistics team probably just doesn't think it's worth it monetarily to do Australia, New Zealand. As it stands, not even like America and Europe is it basically in terms of where they sell these directly. So there's lots of other parts of the world that they don't ship to, but yeah, we are far away, Australia and New Zealand. What are we looking at? Oh, the price differential between buying a Steam Deck here in New Zealand versus buying it in the US. Where this translates, this, actually, what would this translate to in New Zealand dollars? USD and NZD. So it's about 1,000. It should, at this price, the Steam Deck should be about 1,000 New Zealand dollars. But for me, it's $1,600. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this price, like, this price in, when translated back, it translates to about 1,000 US dollars. So we're paying 1,000 US for the same product. It just sucks. It just sucks. Again, it would save me money to use one of those services that allows you to buy stuff overseas and then get it on forwarded. I know there was, I remember looking up a service years ago. I'm going to keep an eye on the time. Years ago, I saw there was a service that you can, it basically, the address that you can ship it to is, like, it's basically like they have some sort of, like, depot somewhere in the US, and when you buy it, it gets shipped to that depot, and then that depot handles on shipping it to you. I'm just afraid that if I did that with a high-value item like that, it might go missing, and then I've lost, 1,000 New Zealand dollars plus. Rorius should interview Gabe, if only. Mid-season patch update for Overwatch 2. Heroes are getting tweaks again. Ah, nice. You have a feeling the CSGO fan base will be angry if Source 2 changes nothing? Right. And angry if it changes everything? Yeah. Yeah, no matter what it comes out as, no matter what way it comes out, someone's going to be angry about something. Can you try to steal it? Theoretically, yes. Practically speaking, no. Yeah. No, actually, what I'm probably gonna do, because this is a real short stream this time, I might do a follow-up to this on Wednesday. Or Tuesday night for you guys. I might do another reaction stream on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, because I only got to like 2.5 hours this time, and I ranted a lot. See, we didn't even get halfway through the month with this stream. So yeah, we'll do another one midweek, so I can catch up a little better. Yeah. But I'll just watch this run real quick, and then we'll wrap up the stream.
What's up?
Building.
Building.
Stupid!
Aww.
Oh, were you gonna cry now?
With a convenience. Right, yeah.
Oh, man! Daddy's gonna beat you.
Oh, crap.
Beefy engineer.
Go, Daddy, go, go!
Wait.
Bill.
Psych!
You might be able to do something next time. Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Oh. Oh, no. Nice, yeah, see.
Come on,
It works the
tough
entire
guy.
soundtrack. Nice.
I am gonna mess you up!
Scout, apologize.
I'm sorry.
Good. Let's go home. Come on.
All right.
Daddy!
Aw.
I love you, Daddy. Darn.
Oh my god. He's running
son.
Windows.
Hi, Daddy!
Alrighty then.
What the fuck? That's such a weird video. And this playmat is one of those playmats that's like
that giant tin Nick?
everyone had a playmat like that. Well, so many people I know had a playmat like that. Alright, well. Set that to watched. And we'll come back. Oh, whoops. I didn't hit apply. There we go. We'll come back to this on Tuesday night / Wednesday morning. Glad to see he's still using good old sentence mixing instead of AI voices. Yeah. It's the classic. That's the classic. You'll never achieve the same feeling with AI voices as you get with those like word chopping. Yeah. Might just post all the ones you didn't hear instead of the whole thing. Ah, yeah, fair enough. 50 minutes. Oh, damn. Yeah. Well, I think some people are returning to the house, so I should get going. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. We'll be back with some more reaction stuff very soon. But I'll see you then. I hope you guys will have a good night. And yeah, I can't wait till the next one. Yeah. All right. I gotta go. See you guys. Bye. Bye.